Friends, I apologize for my disheveled appearance and for the timing and lateness of this Christmas message. I had an unfortunate injury and had to undergo surgery this week, as you can see here, to repair and reattach my bicep tendon. Recovery is going to be long and it's going to be painful, but long, painful battles are something that our organization is pretty well suited for, as we've demonstrated in our fight against the Warhawks and the Profiteers. Regardless of injury or obstacle, the mission continues. And this Christmas, I would actually like to remember a time when common men, when enlisted soldiers, took the initiative against the war machine, even if only for a brief, short moment in time. World War I had begun in August of 1914, engulfing most of Europe. And on the Western Front, a German invasion of France by way of Belgium had stalled just 50 miles outside of Paris. Fighting quickly devolved into trench warfare, with German and British French lines divided by a no man's land of barbed wire, shell holes, and death. Soldiers lived and died in the trenches of mud and dirt, infested with fleas and other vermin, and often flooded with water that was knee-deep. Winter added frost and a bitter cold. The war that people on both sides said would be done by Christmas showed no sign of ending, and by December, after barely 5 months of combat, casualties on all sides numbered over 2 million. Yet, that Christmas Eve, an unexpected sound could be heard above the din of gunfire. Soldiers on the German side singing Stille Nacht, the original German language Silent Night. Small fir trees, makeshift replacements for the grand Christmas trees back home, had been placed. After much hesitation, soldiers on the British side began to poke their heads out of the trenches. The Germans didn't fire. The Brits responded by applauding and singing their own English version of the carol. The two sides then met together in no man's land. Soldiers laughed, they talked, they sang, they exchanged gifts, and they helped to bury their dead. A few games of soccer were even played. This outbreak of peace was entirely spontaneous, started by privates on the front lines as their officers threatened them with courts-martial. The truce continued until the end of Christmas. In some spots it continued for days, but slowly men returned to their respective sides and the fighting resumed. Europe would not see another Christmas in peacetime until 1918, after 10 million men had been killed. There's a lot of lessons that we should learn from the 1914 Christmas Truce. The first is that even in the depths of war and misery, miracles of humanity are still possible. The second is that oftentimes it's the enlisted men on the front lines who have a better sense than their officers or politicians. I believe that's why when my organization successfully obtains a committee hearing for the Defend the Guard Act, it's common soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen who come and testify in favor of the bill. They understand the oath that they took to uphold and defend the U.S. Constitution, and they don't want to see our National Guard deployed into any more undeclared wars. On the other hand, it's too often the generals, fretfully sweating about their money and losing stars on their shoulders, who testify against the bill's passage. Obedience to tyranny is always easier than resistance. It's estimated that over 100,000 soldiers participated in the Christmas Truce. And in 2024, I expect the Defend the Guard Act will be introduced in over 30 state legislatures. It took 100,000 people to make the guns go silent in Europe for 24 hours. But if today 100,000 Americans stood and took a stand and contacted their local representatives, our National Guardsmen would never again be sent to fight an unconstitutional war. So this Christmas, say a prayer for our soldiers still fighting overseas, and spare a thought for the veterans who are trying every day to bring them home. And if you're filled with the spirit of giving, visit bringourtroopshome.us and begin making a monthly $10 contribution to the cause, and learn what else you can do to help us with this mission. Merry Christmas, and God bless.